Logistics Monk Show. You are watching episode 11. Can you believe that 11 people actually wanted to sit down with me and actually talk to me? I'm a little bit weird, but I'm really blessed and really honored to have conversations with people around the world. And we cover many topics. When I was kind of looking at how should I build my channel, I've read that you should have niches, you should talk on one audience and things like that. And with my life, I've realized that I just want to talk to people and hear different stories. So every episode is going to be completely different. We're going to maybe talk about sales one episode. We're going to talk about family another episode. We're going to be talking about imposter syndrome, which we did last week. But today is something that I am really looking forward to. And the reason why is that, you know, I can honestly say and be a little bit vulnerable here that I've been using my phone as a vice. Sometimes I've used my phone as like that way to get rid of my real life. In other ways, I've used food as well to look at different ways to basically hide or escape from the world. But we all know that's not good, but we can't stop doing it, right? So today I wanted to bring in an amazing specialist, an amazing person, an amazing teacher, an amazing, just a great person who is going to be coming here to talk to us about how we can basically overcome things like food addiction, how we look at things like um, when we have an abundance of pleasure and where our lives look like right now. So, without further ado, I want to bring on our amazing guest, Bracha Goetz, all the way from the U.S. today. We want to welcome her over to Logistics Mug Show. How you doing, Bracha?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I can't thank you enough for agreeing to the time. And Lewis Howes, with the podcast, he's always said that the pre-chat is really the show of before you actually go and film the shows, which we're doing right now. But when you and I connected on that pre-chat, I just felt something. I was like, the conversations and just the warmth that you showed. So can you tell the audience a little bit about who you are, what you do?
Sure. I'm the author of 41, I say, books that help children's souls to shine. That's what they all have in common. And then one memoir for adults. It's a very candid, raw book about um, overcoming food addictions and my whole journey to joy in life. Yeah.
I love that. At 41, like you mentioned, you don't want to call them books, but these are like I would love to call them like references, like they're things that people can go and reference and learn about themselves, especially the kids when everything you can kind of form them from there. In our conversation, Braca, I really enjoyed the topic that you brought up. Like, we have an abundance of pleasure in our lives right now, right? Our lives are completely different to the cavemen, to even to our parents. Everything is so easily accessible. I can literally pick up my phone and probably look at 20, probably not even 20, 200 different restaurants who could have food at my door in like less than like 30 minutes or so. Can you talk to the audience a little bit about your thoughts on what the abundance of pleasure is?
Yes. Well, why do overeating is so prevalent? Why is that? Like, why do people overeat? It has nothing to do with being hungry, with physical hunger anyway. We overeat because we taste something, oh, it's pleasurable. And if we feel a scarcity of pleasure in our lives, then we just want to keep bringing it in, stuffing it in our faces because we want the pleasure to keep lasting. What we really want is lasting pleasure. It's not that we want the bag of potato chips. It's not that we are not going to manage without finishing off this bag. We just want the pleasure to keep lasting. And we get stuck easily in food addictions as well as other addictions. It brings us that immediate pleasure, and we want it to continue. It's not a problem with eating it. It's a problem with eating it and eating it and eating it and eating it. So we have to recognize that we get stuck there. How can we open up and realize, is there really a scarcity of pleasure in my life? Or can I open my eyes and see that there's an abundance of pleasure that I could bring into my life right this very minute? I have the power to do it. It is there. And the secret, the real secret to happiness is gratitude. It's recognizing that already we have an abundance of pleasures in our life right now. It's not like that's going to give me pleasure or that's going to give me pleasure. We can bring it into our lives right now, ourselves, by recognizing, opening our eyes to the abundance of pleasures we are experiencing right this very moment.
That is so beautiful. Everything you just said there, Bracha, I so related. I want the audience to understand that when she's saying talking about that gratitude that we definitely aspire to have. With that being said, you mentioned that the scarcity. Where does that come from? When you talk to other people and you understand the food addictions like that, where does that scarcity mindset come from?
I love that question. My newest children's book, I got to tell you, this book, it's called Don't Read This Book. It's written by the voice in our heads that's telling us you don't have enough pleasure. You need that. You need that. We all have this voice in our heads. Okay? So it took me 30 years to write this book. I had the title, I had most of the book written, but I kept writing it through the years and I kept working on it. I said, it's not yet ready. The last piece of wisdom came to me last year. I finally learned it. And that is the surprise ending to this book. This book explains that that voice that's working really hard to get us miserable all day long. This is the surprise which I did not understand. That voice also really does not want us to listen to it. It wants us to say, "Oh, you're trying to make me miserable." And like those dumbbells that we lift off of us, we push it off and we grow our gratitude muscles. We get our gratitude muscles stronger, recognizing that there's a voice put in our heads on purpose to get us stronger and move it off because we need resistance training to get stronger. That's what it is. It's a personal trainer. Each person has their own voice designed for them. It shows in the book that the voice comes in different disguises. Once you figure it out this way, then it goes into another disguise. This is how it works. You see, if we can teach children these concepts early on, they don't have to play catch up like the rest of us, learning, going through all, wasting a lot of time in unnecessary pain. And they can accomplish so much more and have a more joyful life. So that is what I work on, teaching happiness skills to young children and also to adults now too, so we can all live more joyfully. So it's being aware of that voice. When we recognize it, like the wicked witch of the west, when you pour water on the witch, they just dissolve. When you recognize that voice, it's the voice trying to make you miserable. It loses its power. That very minute you go, oh, it's not really me that is craving this. It's that voice trying to get me to think I need this, I lack that. It gets you to focus on what you're lacking instead of what you already have. So as we train the muscles, the gratitude muscles, it gets easier and easier to become a more grateful person.
This is amazing. That was probably some of the most profound. I don't want to call it advice or conversation. I really think that this is kind of, as to say, this kind of comes off as scripture to me. And the reason why
Yes.
I say that, Brock, is because when we look at gratitude, you mentioned it's a muscle. So some people think that, hey, I can just be grateful for one moment and that's it. But when we understand that it's a muscle and it always needs to be worked on, like you said, the resistance training, it's built in within us to be great, have gratitude for other people. That's why we're able to connect with people around the world. We have all these amazing resources to do that. And first and foremost, congratulations on that book. I will be reading that book, even though it says do not read this book. But as you kind of mentioned in there, we have that scarcity and that that there's that pleasure. How does someone measure like that pleasure? Is there like some kind of like matrix? Is there some kind of how does somebody like look at that? Is there a couple rungs or something like that to understand what level are they at in terms of looking for pleasure itself?
Yes, I want to explain this. They have done studies. If a person wins the lottery, they win $1 million. 6 months later, they're at the same happiness point, set point that they were at before they won the lottery. If a person, God forbid, gets paralyzed, believe it or not, 6 months later, they're at the same happiness set point they were at before. But if a person begins doing gratitude exercises, let's say before they go to sleep at night, they think of 3 things they're grateful for that happen. They wake up in the morning, they do it. Some people write it in a journal. They found that 6 weeks later, they're at a whole nother level of happiness, and it stays. This level of happiness actually puts a change in your life forever. So it's not what happens to you in life. It's what happens to you here. It's using your brain muscle. It's actually the more you use the, these are neural synapses that we create. The more we create these gratitude pathways, when you travel down a road that no one ever traveled down, it's very rocky, all the gravel. Once you've done it, the grooves are there. It's the same thing with this. At first, it feels funny to be focusing on gratitude, and after a while, it becomes a habit. It becomes a part of us, and there's nothing to lose. It's all you gain from the gratitude habit is a joyful life. Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
You get that joyful life and everything you just said. I want the audience to really take that in and, rewind this back and listen. You don't have to listen to me. Like, don't listen to me on this podcast. Listen to Braca only because everything she's saying, there's value in that, right? And you want that joyful life. And that was something that, we chatted about, wanting to have that joyful life, having that gratitude. So it comes from, I see gratitude, Braca, as serving people. I don't look like when I work in sales, I don't look to, I don't have a commission number. I just want to help X amount of people because Zig Ziglar said, you help people, you'll get exactly what you want by helping people get what they want. But one thing that I would love to know, as you're kind of like you said, you help people with, like, food addiction, things like that. Why did you get into something like that? What is your experience with food addiction?
Yeah. So I suffered from this. It began. Oh, so that's it. My memoir here. Nourish the Soul. That's what it's about. This book, my memoir, it's a documentary. It's the actual excerpts from my diaries. And then when I got older, I called it a journal. And then there's letters in there, and I filled in the missing pieces. So it's age 12 to 32, 20 years documented. You watch me slowly developing food addictions and then healing from it. And I go into really raw details. Like, some people say this is painful. Like, you're on the food binges with me. It's a horrible experience. Very graphic about what I'm. And these are behaviors that are done totally in secret. When you're in active addiction, nobody sees you doing these things. You plan out very well how to do it secretly, and no one's aware of it. On the outside, you put on an act as long as you can that everything's great. I look successful on the outside, but inside I was suffering. And I say the walls get narrower and narrower in the jail that you create for yourself. The walls are made of your own thoughts. You have the key to get out, but you don't know it. So that's what it's like to be in an addiction. And I'm so grateful. And like you said, what I'm sharing today is not what I learned at Harvard. I went there looking for wisdom, but that's not what and then I went on to medical school, and this is not what I gained in medical school. This is the ancient mystical wisdom that I finally found that filled my soul, and that's why I'm sharing it, because this helped to heal me, and I didn't even understand why. When my soul was finally full, why did I no longer have the addictions? What did one thing have to do with the other? And it has everything to do with it. When we fill up our lives with gratitude, we don't have to be eating endlessly anymore or involved in any other addiction. We are full. We're filled with gratitude. And like you said, so there's what I learned about from ancient mystical wisdom. This is not my own stuff, is the pleasure ladder. So you talked about doing meaningful things. These are the 5 levels of pleasure. And I believe it corresponds to our 5 fingers because we have the ability to bring pleasure into our lives at any moment through gratitude. It's not dependent on anybody else. It's totally empowering. The lowest level are all the natural physical pleasures that were created for totally to give us pleasure and to experience with gratitude. The 5 levels of pleasure correspond to the 5 levels of the human soul. So the lowest level of pleasure is the part that's connected to the body. So the lowest level of pleasure are all the sensual pleasures that were designed to nourish both our bodies and our souls, to fill us with gratitude. Um, Natural foods, being in nature, exercise, movement, like let's say yoga, dancing, swimming, music, all of these natural pleasures. I love to give the example of an orange or a tangerine. It first of all, it's green when it's when it's still growing. It's not yet ripe. It's camouflaged in with the leaves until it's ready for us. It becomes bright and beautiful. I'm ready. It's calling us, with its beautiful color. So we enjoy it by looking at it. That sense is involved. We can smell it. It smells beautiful. We open it up, and the sweet juiciness is kept in with the peel for months. It's held in there. It's so sweet and juicy. And when we finish it, and it's good for our bodies and our souls, it nourishes us with gratitude and it heals us. It's healthy. The seeds are the last things. They're meant to go back into the earth and create infinite amount of trees and infinite amount of oranges. It just goes right on replenishing itself. So the seeds have infinite wisdom in them. And this experiencing just an orange, is just the lowest level of pleasure that we can experience with such gratitude. And going up is love. And you would think love is dependent on somebody else, but you can bring love into your life at any moment just by focusing on the virtues of another. Even in prison, a, a, a person could think of a grandmother that once did something inspiring and they're uplifted emotionally to become a better person. So, love is available to us at any moment through focusing. And then, like you said, doing something good and meaningful in the world. Each level up brings more connection, it brings more lasting pleasure. So, doing something good and meaningful, higher than that is creativity. When we put a unique part of ourselves into the world and we don't feel like eating or sleeping when we're in the zone of creativity. It's like such a high. And the highest the highest level is called transcendence. It's the sense of oneness. When we recognize we're all connected to the same source energy. And it's also like you feel it under a starry sky. You're a part of the greater universe. And it's also when we make that first crack in a bad habit, we do something new. We transcend our own limitations and become our more resilient souls. We become closer to our essence. So that's like a summary of the 5 levels of pleasure.
Remarkable, just remarkable on that aspect. Because Brecca, as you were talking about the 5 levels and you're going through those 5 levels, I think about my own faith, and I'm Hindu, by faith. And we think about those things, right? You're talking about the orange. That, to me, my interpretation of that was, where we believe in reincarnation. That we go through all these cycles of life until we fill up our karma bank, we'll call it, and then we'll attain moksha, which is salvation, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of go through that endless cycle of like enjoying, because I don't know, for me, I believe that there's no coincidences in life. So there's been times where like something has happened and I'm like, either this I dreamt this before, or this has happened somewhere else, or sometimes when I meet people, especially like it's just weird like that. And when you're talking about love, I was shaking my head so much because one thing I've learned about love, I've been married for 4 years to my wife, and love itself is, I can't love my wife or love my partner or love my dogs or love anything around the world or have that gratitude muscle worked on if I don't love myself. And love to me is within. Like, everybody thinks that, relationships are 50-50. I don't believe that. I really believe that each person needs to love themselves, and they bring that and they contribute. One day I'll be 90, she'll be 10%. The other day she might be 70%, I'll be 30%. There's no scores for me, at least in a relationship, but we're only married 4 years. So what do I know, right? But all those things that you're talking about, I just really think that, when we look at the pleasure, it really comes back down to being more grateful as a person. So one thing I'll ask you, Braca, is simply, what are you grateful for?
What am I not grateful for? I mean, yeah, I'm Jewish, and exactly that. Our guidelines are, when we wake up in the morning, the first word of out of our mouths is thank you. That's part of our guidelines, and it goes on throughout the day. We have gratitude exercises built in. I wasn't brought up like this. I wasn't brought up in a spiritual way. So I only found out about my heritage as a young adult, and that was part of my healing. Recognizing recognizing that I even was a spiritual being in need of spiritual nourishment. That was the realization that I didn't know that. And that's why I spend my life now sharing that, because if we just think we're physical beings, that's just our covering. Our essence is spiritual. One of my books is called The Invisible Book. We are in essence invisible, but we just have this covering over us. And we all share the same universal soul. We also, actually, most people don't realize that Jewish people also believe in reincarnation. If we don't get it on this round, we'll be back, Groundhog's Day. We'll be back till we get it right. So, yeah, what am I grateful for? I'm grateful for this opportunity that I get to share this with other people, because helping other souls to shine helps my soul to shine. Obviously, that's the self-care that you're talking about. That's the self-love. I'm helping myself by helping others. That's how it goes. Um, this When I was on another show, and the guy said, when I got up to the part about meaning, he said he was by himself. He had two slices of pizza, and he was about to plow through the whole rest of the box, feeling lonely by himself. His neighbor knocks on his door. He helps him for 2 minutes. When he comes back, he doesn't want the pizza anymore. He just filled up. He did something for someone else. He's feeling good about himself now. He puts the rest of pizza in the fridge for tomorrow. It's all about, when we overeat, is it my body that's hungry or my soul? The sooner we recognize that it's our soul, we can do we can pick whatever we want to fill us up, to to be grateful for. Immediately you'll see the bag of potato chips stops calling your name so loudly. That very moment, we don't even have to do the thing. We just think about doing it, and that power is gone. The power of the potato chips is gone over us. Yeah.
I love that. The power of the potato chips. Maybe we'll title that the episode, "The Power of the Potato Chips." But like you said, that story that you shared is so beautiful because himself was looking for something to be as a placeholder. I look at life as kind of like placeholders. So
Yeah.
it's like you're trying to fill some kind of void, right? But then,
Yes.
like you said, he helped his neighbor, and then he wasn't hungry anymore because he realized, hey, this is what I wasn't looking for. For somebody who's watching out there, and they might be going through that same struggle right now, and for us here, it's easy for us to say, fill your bucket, fill your bucket, fill your bucket, or have gratitude, but they're in a dark place. What is some advice that you would give to somebody looking to make a change in life? They're wanting to make a change in life, they just simply can't.
Yes. For one thing I want to say about, let's say it's about overeating. Here's a good question to ask. If I have 95 more spoonfuls of this ice cream, if I finish up this whole bucket, will I then feel full? It's a very clear question, because you won't. It will not fill that empty spot. It will not fill the void. So the sooner we can recognize that when we're overeating, we can move on. We get those neurons, they're firing back here at the top of our brainstem, the lower part of the brain. They're saying, I need this. I got to eat this. I'm so disappointed. This just happened. This fell through. I got to eat this now. And you say, and then you get you move all the way up to here to the prefrontal cortex, and you ask those questions. Gosh, will 95 more times me putting this in my mouth, is that going to make me feel better? It'll make me feel worse afterwards, actually. So what can I do? What can I do right now? I could message somebody, tell them what I appreciate about them, send them a text. They don't even have to get the text. All of a sudden, I'm going to feel better. I'm going to feel more empowered, more gratitude in me just from sending that text message that nobody may be even getting right that minute. It's amazing. I could go outside, feel the sunshine, feel the breeze, just take in, savor the gratitude. I could eat something healthy. I'm not going to eat a whole bag of oranges. It's just not going to, I'm going to mindfully eat it, experience that. Turn on music, start dancing, stretch just a little bit, just do a head roll at first, barely move, and feel how good that feels. Then do some, focus on all the parts of your body that are working right now, all the parts of you, all the diseases you don't have right now. These are things that work. Just that. And if I can, I want to share one other little thing. Imagine a person, they're on a rooftop and they are, talk about feeling miserable. They are about to end it all. And a lady across the way, she sees him and she goes, don't jump, whatever you do. I'm sure you are so unhappy right now and you have so much pain in your life. What if, in addition to all that pain, what if you were also blind, right? Blind. And what if right now you were given the gift of sight for the first time in your life? Would you still jump? And he says, no, of course not. And she says to him, well, you have been blind. Open your eyes. No matter what you're going through, there are still so many things in your life you could be grateful for. And that's all of us. We are all of us blind. We can't possibly be thankful for all the abundance of things happening to us right now, right this moment. The breathing, the pandemic taught us that. We will have lungs. Experience the joy of breathing. It's experience the joy of moving your arms and legs. I mean, there's so much to be grateful for. Yeah.
And I think everything you just said, you're talking about COVID as well. And I always tell this to people. I'm maybe a broken record for people who've been watching our show, but I thoroughly enjoyed that pandemic break because I was able. My wife was home, and I was able to take our dog, and we would just go outside and see like the earth like healing itself.
Yes.
Like there was nobody on the roads. You could smell the air was a little bit different. When we went to the park, feeling the feet, those blades of grass under your feet, it just
Yes.
felt different, and it felt like that repair. And for all of us looking to have that like lasting pleasure for life, right? Like you
Yes.
said, send that message to somebody. And I wanted to give a little bit of disclaimer to everybody here. Do these things for of gratitude because you genuinely want to, not because you have to. And the reason why I say that is,
Yeah.
we live in a society right now with social media that, I'm gonna go give some money to the homeless. Oh, I gotta record this, and post it on my social. I personally believe in my faith, and my thinking is that, you do those things, but it kind of negates it. You kind of put a quarter in, but then you just took that quarter back out, right? And for me, it's like doing these things because you generally want to, and you have that sense of spirit. Because when you kind of get to a point of that, you want to be at zen with yourself, and you want to find that peace. Like all of us here, like we said, we're really just trying to train that gratitude muscle and let it get as big as it possibly can. What are your thoughts on something like that?
Absolutely. And what you said about the pandemic, it got us all. We were all taking everything for granted. And then in one day, everything changed. And the things that we took for granted suddenly, wow, can't be with other family, can't do gatherings, can't go places. I'm lucky I'm breathing. All of a sudden, we were so grateful for the most basic things. This was a gigantic opportunity, a push forward in our spiritual evolution. That's what I believe because it happened all over to all of us. It pushed us all forward. Who took that opportunity to do that, not to take things for granted, like you say. And yes, just enjoy experiencing this gratitude. And here's what you do. You know, what pulls people down the most is when they, of course, they're going to overeat sometime, like an example like that. There's always going to be relapses. So here's the thing to do, even be grateful for that. It's unbelievable. Like you go, oh, I just ate 10 candy bars. I could have eaten 20. I could have eaten 50. Be grateful for each thing, and then it won't grab you and hold you and make you feel miserable. We can be grateful for just about anything. It's absolutely amazing. Once you start utilizing this, you'll see how far it can go.
I love this. This has been such an amazing conversation. I'm so thankful. I'm grateful for you coming here and spreading that amazing knowledge. Uh, Brecca, how can people get a hold of you? They want to see all your books. They want to get in touch with you. Let us know how the audience can do that.
Yeah, my youngest children created this amazing website. Also, on the website, you can download a free chart of the pleasure ladder. You could put it on your fridge, on your cabinet. It'll remind you that there's an abundance of other ways to fill up. And so it's called getsbookshop.com. And the books, yeah, hundreds of thousands of people, thank God, are gaining from the books. I'm so happy, and I just wanted to keep spreading. And I have books about the prevention of abuse. I hear from people so much how it's saving lives because, like, abuse, it puts coverings over our souls that are infinitely resilient, and that's the thing. It's removing the coverings so that we can shine infinitely forever, and that's the goal. Yeah.
That's such a beautiful thing. We'll put all the links, everything like that, in the show notes. So once again, I want to thank you so much for taking your time of your busy day because I know you definitely are busy and you're making all these amazing. Like I said, I'm calling it scripture from now on because you're providing truths and things that are really, really important. So thank you so much and wishing you all the best. Hopefully we can do this again in the future. It's been a truly pleasure, an honor of mine. Thank you so much.
Thank you.